Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Roy, a Global Leaders podcast blog series, a forum in which we interact with global leaders from around the world and try and clarify, simplify, and exemplify some very unique perspectives and insights that truly matter. And in doing so today, I have the absolute privilege of welcoming Maha Zaatari, prior Managing Director for Great Place to Work Institute, and a very credible HR consultant and a workplace consultant at the moment. Thank you, Maha. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you talking today, and I look forward to our conversation.
Pleasure is all mine, Maha. Well, coming back to your name, though, when you look at Maha, as per Indian language, it means great. And Zaatari is probably derived from the Zaatar word, the Arabic spice.
Yes.
So should I say that you have the great spice for the metaphorical dish of different organizations to transform it across sectors, across genres? Would that be correct to say, Maha, in your journey?
Yeah, that's a very good way of looking at my name. Yeah, I wouldn't say no, but I have been told by many Indian friends and colleagues here in Dubai about the Maha name, and I'm proud of it. But yeah, that sounds good.
Lovely. Great. See, I would start off with an anecdote, really, probably a couple of them. One is, there's a saying which says that to preserve culture is to be able to continuously create it. And then there's an oft-repeated saying as well, which says that culture eats strategy for breakfast every day, right? So at the cornerstone of Great Place to Work, you do have the culture audit and the trust index survey, two pillars which certifies organizations to be good, not mentioning the bad and the ugly, right? So how is the journey so far in terms of wearing different hats, really, from being an HR consultant to leading Great Place to Work initiative, mentoring organizations, taking them to the certification stage, and then being a workplace consultant now?
So going back to my experience with Great Place to Work, I think this is when my career has took a big shift in to the way I look into HR and the workplace culture. So during my time with Great Place to Work, I had the opportunity to work with many organizations on the multinational level and the local level. And our emphasis was most on employee engagement and workplace experience and the workplace culture. And as I said, this is when my whole outlook into the space of employee engagement has shifted, because we were focusing on the great workplaces, on what companies are doing to become great workplaces. In the process, though, we have met and seen and witnessed many not very great, if I may say, or in some cases toxic workplaces. But there is always, this was part of our mission. So during that experience, I have had the chance to celebrate those who were great workplaces and giving them the chance to build on their employer brand. But on the other hand, we had also the consulting arm of the business, where we worked with organizations who are still struggling to identify and live the culture. We helped them as well through that journey, which led me to where I am today as an independent workplace culture consultant, because it's simply my passion. I couldn't think of myself doing anything else in terms of a profession other than helping people get the best workplace experience.
Lovely, fair enough. And I wish you all the very best in terms of being able to transform organizations with your own bit that you're doing now. In the good to great evolvement cycle for different organizations across the spectrum, be it multinational SMEs or be it a family group for that matter, or a startup, ecosystem. How does Great Place to Work really fit in? Does Great Place to Work really advocate a playbook for organizations or HR to be able to look at XYZ, to be able to be GPW compliant, and then you take it forward from there?
If I can speak on behalf of Great Place to Work today, I would say as an independent consultant, they have a certain methodology to implement when they are trying to choose and award the best workplaces, and they have a certain definition of what is a great workplace. So the great place to work definition of a great workplace, so many greats in one sentence, is a place where you trust the people you work for, you have a pride in what you do, and you enjoy the people you work with. So there's these three key relationships at work that Great Place to Work looks into while trying to award or certify any organization. And I think they have made it very simple and real and relatable. Like when people, whether in the management team, the leadership team, or any member of the organization, they look into these three relationships, it's easier to connect. So yes, they have the trust model, and trust, sorry, I didn't mention, and trust is the center of these relationships. So the higher the trust in an organization, the higher the potential of that organization to be a great workplace. So, and I think it's insightful. It makes sense because this is what we need to do. We need to make sense to people. And so the trust model has been in the market for more than 40 years today, and it has been proven successful. Yeah. I still watch Great Place to Work, and I think they're doing very well in the market. There's a bit of a challenge whether organizations should opt to the option of being certified. So there's always the question of being certified versus being a really great workplace. And I think Great Place to Work as an institution have those measures to understand who is really a great workplace.
Very true. I think you hit the nail on the head. It could be a great place to work certified while it's not being a great place to work in the real sense. And I think we saw a lot of those cases where, in terms of real COVID times, when the organizations who were certified as great place to work and who were probably top 10 as well, there was a lot of bloodbath, and the way they went around the HR practice, the people centricity went for a toss. And I think there's a lot to be said more in terms of just certified rather than what happens on the ground. So this brings me to my next question though, Maha, which is Great Place to Work has two key criteria, which is your culture audit and then your trust index survey, right? Do you guys also look at other critical variables? Say, for example, are your performance appraisal systems just and fair? Are your employee engagement really happens, or is it masked? And what are the learning agilities there? Do you create only a right ambience or right layout, the foosball, the freebies, and so on and so forth, but the sense of real ownership is really not there? So how do you probably balance, the both?
Well, I can't today speak on behalf of Great Place to Work, but that's always like the case, because when you certify organization, but what I mean by that, when you certify organization, there is a minimum of the trust index score. So which means there is a minimum number of people who would agree that this is a great place to work. But there is always the other side of the story, which is the smaller group of people who believe they still have issues and this is not a great workplace. Again, I can't speak on behalf of Great Place to Work today, but I think they have a certain criteria in order to avoid certifying organizations who don't deserve to be certified. But let's speak in general terms. Today, looking into the market, I think the awards and certifications are great employer branding tools. But what happened to the world and to the workplace during COVID was too big, and it shifted the way people look at workplace culture, and it shifted everyone's perception of space and time, and so what made people happy before COVID still makes people happy today, but there's different elements into it. And today organizations are more aware. It's not merely about the certification. If you want to get certified, you want to build on your employer brand, amazing. But if you do that alone, that's very bad and toxic, and it's gonna bring probably it can have a counter effect when people who are not happy internally see you promoting your workplace as great workplace, and they know it's not. People will not only laugh at the award, but will also lose trust and genuinity of the survey. So what I'm trying to say, be it Great Place to Work or any other certification today in the market, what I would advise organization, don't just focus, it's just the cherry on top. Work hard on your culture, make sure you have the great workplace culture, and then what organizations sometimes fail to understand, you cannot get the certificate to be great workplace. No, it happens the other way around. You have to be a great workplace to get certified. So what we see, Roy, I had an experience with an awful workplace. When I say awful, I mean they don't tick any of the boxes of basics. And then I was looking into, with all my respect to LinkedIn, I was looking into LinkedIn list of 10 best workplaces, and I see that company on the top 10 as well.
There you go.
And I was like, huh? I know about their practices, and I know. But then again, LinkedIn's criteria is different. LinkedIn criteria basically focuses on the number of applicants, maybe, or like something like that. I'm not here to judge or say this is a great workplace or this is not amazing. It's a fantastic employer branding tool. Do it, use it, but make sure that you really work hard on it before you just want to tick the box.
True, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a very compelling way of looking at how things finally pan out in terms of perception, what's on the ground, the reality.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So, I mean, there's a huge hue and cry in terms of organizations succumbing to a checklist, really, in terms of having your vision, mission, value statement, and probably a precursor to being certified. Probably, I'm not too sure. But I think these are the 3 tick boxes that people generally have. Now, do you really have a formal one done? And yes, they do have it, but they don't really live those values, right? Now, when you have to draw a parallel between a lot of other family groups, really, right? Which have implicit value system, which are so intact, really, that doesn't really require a value statement. But over a period of time, they have developed that culture of trust, mutual trust, empowerment, innovation, excellence that really drives the culture forward. But yes, they don't have it formalized, right? And hence, they are not in that particular spectrum of organizations who would have done X, Y, and Z. So how do you respond to that? Is it as important to have the tick box exercise done, or to be able to actually live those values every day?
I would say both. They go together. But what's more critical if you tick the boxes and you don't do the work on the ground. So if you tick the boxes and you have the strategy, the values, you advertise it, you create a huge campaign, it will live for a short while, but it's not sustainable. So again, values are these nicely written words about the company's beliefs and purpose and vision. It summarizes the belief of the leadership of the organization. But culture is the living of these values on everyday basis. So when people live the values, this is how culture gets formed, because we get the question of what is a workplace culture? How can you identify and touch a culture? Big part of the culture is to what extent people live the values of the organization. And hence, Roy, when you walk into an Apple store, you feel the philosophy and the standards, the customer experience and the employee experience through the people through the products. It all speaks the same language, which is the language of their values. And there are some organizations, as you said, who innately, if that's the right word, live the values because they were encouraged to, their practices encourage them to live the values, but they're not very well formalized or written. Again, that's not great because you need that. You need to tick that box, but it's the same as a certification. But you need to make sure that it's a sustainable effort, because at the end, it will also disappear if you don't live it on daily basis.
Wonderful, wonderful insight. See, one school of thought that came by, though, a couple of CHROs really, whom I was speaking with, they came back with a very curious question. The question was, when Great Place to Work really identifies mentors and ranks organization first, fifth, or 10th, or 20th, they don't really look at a homogeneous way of doing things. So you could have a furniture company in the top 5. You could have somebody in airlines, somebody in banking, somebody from Big Four, or probably in retail. Whereas the headcount is varied, the workplace dynamics are varied, the genre, the dynamics of people centricity in each of the sectors are again varied. So how are we able to rank companies on unparalleled factors, really? So your thoughts on it?
Very good question. It's a very good question, which we also used to get asked quite often. I must say our response to that was always from a Great Place to Work perspective. Again, I'm talking on behalf of my own thought. That great workplaces are great workplaces. So no matter which industry are you in, the fundamentals are the same. What Great Place to Work tries to understand are the relationships within the organization. And that's why they look into the culture audit, which is very specific to that specific practice. So what makes a great workplace is unique and common. That's not the right. Is what makes a great workplace is very common across all organizations. But then, if there are some challenges and the consulting team wants to come back to fix these issues, then the solutions are customized based on the industry. For the award purposes, I guess, the industry doesn't have an impact. The ideal scenario is in the future, probably Great Place to Work would consider having separate lists, one for the IT industry, because again, to what I think about it today, I think it's completely different to create a happy, engaged bunch of people in a hospital than in a small IT company in internet city or media city. So it's not usually very fair. I worked with Saha, which is an Abu Dhabi company that has 7. And I remember when I used to meet their people, whether the nurses, and I hear about their job circumstances. And I used to think it's really difficult to make these people happy because the nature of the job is very challenging. They're dealing with sick people and death and disasters, and it's just very, it drains you. And then you have people who have a very nice office in Media City or Internet City or in DIFC, and they have nice lunch break and they have free food, and both are trying to be great workplaces, but these perks extra are different and the nature of the job is completely different. So if I would go back and say, is it really fair to put all companies in one list? I would say today, no. The ideal scenario to have an industry-specific list. I don't know what's the plan for Great Place to Work, but it will probably make more sense to the audience if we have industry-specific lists.
Right. And the second question that comes around, and could purely be a case of sour grapes, they come back and say the surveys can be aced, the employees can be trained to respond in a particular manner. And whilst we might have moved away from masks in a COVID-laden era, I think the masking has been going on for quite some time. Really, when people are really trained to act in a particular way, to be able to just do it right for a particular cause. So how do you respond to that? Is it just probably a misconception? Is it just probably a perception? Or does it really happen?
Sorry, I didn't get it. I didn't get your question.
Okay. Few of them contend that probably when you look at the Trust Index survey and the Culture Audit survey, these are things that can be masked, or that the employees can be trained and they can be directed to act in a particular manner, respond to questions in a particular way, so that there's a uniformity in terms of what you get. And of course, for you, what comes back to you, you will take a call on that particular data set, right? So which might not be really reasonable and genuine. So is it a misconception? Is it a fair thought, probably, in terms of your journey and experience now?
Yeah, it's a fair thought for organizations to think, oh well, these people who responded to the survey were trained or pushed. But I think when a company does that, at the end of the day, they're not being genuine and truthful about their intent of why they want to become certified by whichever organization. So even if they get certified, they know it's not true. So again, we go back to ticking the box.
Yeah.
Is there an option for organization or leaders to push people to say the things they want them to say? Yes, of course. There is always a way. At the end of the day, this organization will not, maybe they will get the certificate, they'll celebrate, they'll be happy, they will be all around the media, but then why do you want to get your people engaged? Do you want it only to be certified, or you want it to you want that to to be like present in the way people behave and the way people are productive? You want it to be reflected on your bottom line.
Yeah.
If it's not real, you can see it's not reflecting on the bottom line and the results. But if it's real, if people are saying the truth, you have the chance to understand how people feel today, and you have the chance to act upon it. But if you try to hide from the reality and the truth and hide behind this shiny certificate, good luck to you, but then the results will not follow.
True, correct. Because you know what, most organizations succumb to that marketing lure of having that particular badge, which they can probably kind of display around and wear it very proudly. They can probably get it to invite the best of talents from all across the world, bid for the best of contracts and tenders. But yet, that's how most organizations are. It's not really sustainable. They don't have a long-term view. It's very transactional, right? I get X for Y, and the Z can probably take care of itself. And that's the scenario we find ourselves in. Okay, coming back to workplace transformation, though, very subtle nuances of, let's say, a walkout, let's say checkout, looking at quiet quitting, the great resignation, the exodus, and all of that, right? So how does Great Place to Work really look at parameters to capture these cues? Because these are things that are very explicit in a survey.
Honestly, I cannot answer that question because of the fact that I'm no longer part of the Great Place to Work team since...
Great Place to Work, but you as a workplace consultant now, what are your views on
that? Of course, as I told you, after COVID and the great resignations, and so the things have shifted completely. People are more aware of what does it really take to become a great workplace. So my personal view on that, especially to the great resignation, which everyone is talking about, I think as a consultant today and a workplace culture expert, COVID was a bliss, honestly.
It was.
It was. It's as bad as it was, and I say that again. Take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, because it made organization wake up and be aware. Okay, we need to treat our people differently. The Great Resignation did not happen because of COVID. The Great Resignation would have happened because of so many other reasons, but COVID was we have a saying in Arabic, it was the last thing that made people explode. And so I think it was a good wake-up call for all organizations to understand, all right, our people are not going to stay here forever if we keep treating them the same way we treat them. We really need to make shifts. We need to start trusting people and to work from home. We need to start looking for well-being initiatives in the office. We really need to start to talk about mental health because it's integral and it's very important to the well-being of our people. So engagement was all the time about satisfaction and the survey and the results. Now engagement, we have shifted to the workplace experience. We have shifted to many organizations have a well-being manager. I have also noticed many people's titles on LinkedIn change from like HR to people and culture managers. I've been seeing more of these titles. So there has been a shift. An organization had to stop and understand these are human beings that we're talking about. Employees are not just machines or numbers. They're human beings, and we rather get more humane in the way we treat them. So I think that was a good thing that happened to the industry. We have definitely more listeners now. It's easier to convince people about doing the right thing now more than it was. I remember before COVID, when I was with Great Place to Work, and if I recommended working from home to some leaders, they would go like, what? Impossible. We want trust our people to work from home, because I know they will not work. They will be on the beach or on Facebook or online watching movies, and they will say they're working. And that goes to the no trust culture.
Yeah, very, very important. And I'm so glad that this particular point kind of came up. Yes, because you know what, in COVID times, organizations went that route, not because they were willing to do it. It was sheerly by way of compliance and by way of absolutely being forced to do it. Absolutely, there was a huge trust deficit because they did not trust the employees to really work the way they wanted them to work. And as soon as the vagaries of COVID waned away, they were back to their normal self, right? So which means that organizations, most of them really, are not really sustainable in terms of having progressive people practices. It is just compliance, regulation, and being seen on the right side of the law that they really do these actions. So I think there's a long way to go on that road, really. So how has your thoughts evolved, and how does your ranking and so on and so forth have happened in terms of DIE, let's say, the diversity, inclusiveness, the equity parameters, which still has a long way to go, really, right? In terms of the
Again, I'm going to go back to the example of ticking the box. Unfortunately, many organizations today speak about diversity and inclusion and talk about how many people of color or women leader are on their team and so forth. If you're doing that to tick the box or to be on the right side of history, or to, as you said, to be seen as doing the right thing in the market, then it doesn't serve the purpose of diversity and inclusion. But if you're really looking into your practices and you're trying throughout the implementation of all these practices throughout the employee life cycle, then you truly want to make changes. So I see a lot of talks now, again, people with the title diversity and inclusion. You have specific teams, councils, committees that runs diversity and inclusion now, but the intent, why you're doing it. Are you explaining the intent? Are you following up? Do you really review and see if this is what your people or your organization wants? If an organization comes out and say, oh, we have 5 of our leadership team as female members of the team, like women, we have hired 5 women in senior leadership positions. And then when these women start this position, they find that they're not being treated fairly on all aspects. Then you tick the box that 5 women, 50% of the leadership team are women, but that won't happen next. It's exactly like when you said, Roy, they get the certificate because they want to attract the best talent, okay? And the best talent will come because of the certificate probably. But then this talent will know after 2 months of experience, sometimes much shorter than that, that this is not exactly a great workplace. And then they will leave. And then the cost is much higher of replacing these people. Again, most of organizations and leaders, and when I say most, I talk about the organizations I've been involved with or working with, they're looking at these things on a short-term span. They want to tick the box, they want to be there, they want to be on the list on LinkedIn. which is amazing, but just try to put some more effort to make it real.
True. I think on that aspect, I think there's a long way to go, Maha. I think organizations are still not as educated in that sense of the word and not really evolved. There was a global survey, done by Egon Zehnder, and they came back with the finding that more and more leaders are getting hired for the hard skills and being fired for the soft. So when you look at soft skills, it is your culture, right? So when you have to look at identifying good talents, we look at a parameter called culture fit, right? So the norm really is to look at people who's gonna adapt and cope to our culture, rather than being able to align our culture to the needs of the talents outside. So do you see this trend probably changing over a period of time with the Gen Zs coming in?
Yeah, I think it has definitely changed in the last 10 years, that people are more aware of the behavioral competencies or the soft skills, whatever you call it, or the people skills, that it's more important than any other skills at the time of hiring. Google's famous saying of we hire people for their attitude and their people management skills, not for their technical skills, and we train them on the technical, because it really takes a lot of it takes much more training to let people to understand the importance of the behavioral skills or the soft skills, compared to how much training you would spend for the hard skills or the technical skills. So, and I heard so many stories about so many leaders who are absolutely amazing in managing work and numbers and sales, but when it comes to people, so you're gaining on one side, but you're losing the team work or the team impact on the business. So a 50-50 balance should be done. Sometimes it's 60-40. This is where the industry, the region comes, all these factors comes to the equation. But of course, if you ask me, it's all about the behavioral skills and the people management skills.
True, absolutely. Probably one of my probably another couple of questions, and then probably there's a wrap. As you move from, let's say, a Web 2 world to a very futuristic Web 3 world, you're looking at Dubaiverse, Metaverse, avatars. How do you see the workplace transformation happening when you move away from real people on the ground to from AI?
That's, for me, it's actually, it took me some time to really get convinced that this is the future. And at one point of time, I was like, no, it is actually the way the world is moving, because we've been hearing about it for a while now. We've started to hear about the jobs that will disappear in 20 or 40 years, but we kind of ignored it a little bit. But now it's becoming real. It's becoming closer than ever. You have some government institutions now in the UAE who are already have presence in the meta world or the virtual world. I would be very honest to say I will just wait to witness, because I cannot anticipate. My work is all about people, and my experience is all involving people. And when it comes to people and people management and the human side of the people element, I can talk about it for hours, but I really don't know. I'm very skeptical and I'm very scared, because the most amazing part of human resources is the fact that it is human, and and that will be missing. I don't know how it will work, but it will also be interesting to witness. I'm sure it's, if done the right way, just like in the real world, it can be very impactful. If done genuinely and authentically, in a way that we want to make a difference, not just we want to be in the metaverse world for the first, like we want to be the first or the second.
Yeah.
It's not a race. It's you have to get there, but making sure that you really truly deserve to be there. So let's wait and see what will happen.
Very true. And as we say, we are human resources, but we are humans first, but resources later. right? And when you look
Yes.
at augmented reality, AR, you have virtual reality, VR, we are the humans that is at the cornerstone of what's happening around the world.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Maha, if you had to really, in hindsight, look back, is there any particular person that you looked up to in terms of building your career forward? Any particular idol in life for you?
I have a few, honestly, idols that I really looked up into. One is one of my ex-clients, a gentleman called Thomas. He's the CEO and one of the owners of The One, the famous.
Correct. The furniture club.
And I got inspired the first time I visited his office, and there was a big wall filled with rejection letters from banks and financial institutions. And I asked him about that, and he told me he shared the story of how he started, and from a simple salesperson to an owner of a big business now in the region. And what amazed me is that his philosophy was always about people. And he said, like, the day he wanted to be on the Great Place to Work list, he was downstairs and he picked his noodle lunch, simple lunch, boxed noodles, and he saw the magazine of which had the list of the best workplaces, and he said, I want to be on that list. And everything that he says is evident in the way he treats people and the way The One treats their people. So he's definitely on the business and the leadership side. He's one of my idols. On the personal level, it's my dad, who was also a big believer on continuous education and making sure that every day we wake up, there is an opportunity for us to learn. Like this conversation with you today was an opportunity. I learned new things. So these two people would definitely, I would say, they had a huge impact on my career.
Amazing, inspirational and humble. That's what defines Maha, really. Is there anything that probably the world does not know about you as a person that you would like to share?
The world, I don't know what the world means here, but I think all the world knows my interest and my passion about people and about changing people's lives. Maybe something else that I love painting equally.
Your favorite food or your favorite vacation?
Oh, yeah. I love food. I love eating. I love food. I love to travel and explore cuisines around the world. I had the chance to travel a lot with Great Place to Work and see many parts of the world, which was very interesting. The other thing, other than my passion to people, I have passion in arts and I do paint from time to time. So yeah, this is probably something the world doesn't know.
Brilliant, brilliant. Fantastic, Maha. Thank you so much for your time. And it's been an absolute pleasure listening to your insights, as candid and as articulate as you have been throughout.
Thank you.
I would really say the world is a much better place for people like you. May you continue to inspire, keep shining, and do take care of your health. Thank you, Maha.
Thank you.
Pleasure here.
If you've liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified for future episodes.